it really would be a mistake to build even the very first building without having thought about how public transportation will fit into it. And we have the opportunity right now before us, in June of this year, for Chapel Hill and Carrboro and the university to come together and study that issue. We're ready to go. If that is our number one strategy, our number one goal, then let's do it. Let's move forward on studying that and looking at it, and let's prove that when we say transit-oriented development on page 24 of the infrastructure report from 3 years ago, that here is the nature of our commitment, is that we're going to put this mode of transportation at the top of the list to figure out first. It's the most important strategy.
There's been a dispute, a disagreement, about whether we do a transportation study or whether we do a transit study. And on a transportation study, in simplest terms, you look at all the options, including transit. Whereas what you're suggesting, at least to date, the disagreement has been that the transit study would only look at transit.
One question we could ask is, after we add 2 more travel lanes to MLK and make it a 6-lane road, what kind of bus service will we need? Or we could ask the question, if we improve our public transportation system, will we ever need 2 more lanes on Martin Luther King? And that's what I'm trying to get at, is the sequencing of it is important. Because in other words, if what we presuppose is, well, let's not widen MLK and say, what can public transportation do for us, then we're talking about transit-oriented development. Then we're really asking the question, where can we take this? Where can we go with this? The problem with studying roads and buses at the same time is that essentially what Bill was getting at earlier, that there is a kind of either-or quality to it. That adding 2 lanes to MLK really kills your ability to do the public transportation.
I think that a goal of the transportation plan should be to mitigate road improvements as much as practically possible and come together in a collaborative manner to do that. But to say that you aren't going to ever make any road improvements or any road changes, I don't think that's practical, and I don't think that we should go into it. I think we'd be disingenuous to go into a study saying that we think that roads are completely off the table as a part of the solution, even if they're only a minority part of the solution.
Is public transportation our number one strategy, our number one goal here, and cars the afterthought? Or is it the other way around? And I think that there's a huge opportunity before you, Mr. Chairman, before you, Roger, to step up to the plate and say, yes, public transportation is really the way that the future, that's what, having that level of commitment to public transportation is what saying transit-oriented development is all about. And for us to all get together and do this long-range planning process for our public transportation. Because if we start out by saying, well, what roads can we build, and then ask what public transportation will we need after that, we've gotten the question completely 180 degrees backwards.
The first item of business then is to get a report by representatives of the towns and the university with regard to the progress of the transportation study.
The RFQ is going to go out in a week or 2 or sometime this summer, and there remains some small items of bureaucratic wrangling about the steering committee that will be dealt with later in the fall, I guess. But it's proceeding. The RFQ is going to go out.
Okay,